Welcome back, friends, or welcome if this is your first time to the channel. Now, would you want your kids or grandkids going to Venezuela to fight for their oil resources? I didn't think so. Today, we are going to expose Donald Trump's and Pete Hegseth's sick plan to put us and our loved ones at risk of war and how to fight back against that. I'm Michael P. for Your Democracy, and you're on the Purple Media Network, where our slogan is strengthening democracy beyond party lines. Now, on this channel, we strive to educate folks on the constitutional laws and civic principles that we grew up with so that we can actively participate in the political process and influence the outcome, with our big goal to win back our democracy in the 2026 midterm elections, which is 320 days from now, which you saw on our countdown timer in the beginning. We always explain to you that we don't want to be just a news cycle. So we always want to tell you why it matters to you and to your daily life and to your loved ones. So as the title implies, I call this a blood for oil campaign, much like we've run in the Middle East for decades since the 70s. So today we want to stop Trump's plan to invade Venezuela, which has the number 2 amount of oil reserves in the world. Now, you may think that I'm being dramatic here to get viewers, etc. But when you see what else is going on, I don't think you'll think that it's quite impossible for them to be thinking along these lines. After all, he is the flim flam man. He runs many shell games. And what I mean by that is that whenever there's controversy or hot water, he's always playing the shell game to distract our attention from the real issues. And in this case, we're blowing up suspected drug smuggling boats in the Caribbean Ocean. And we're doing that, ostensibly to stop drug trafficking. And, if it just stopped there, that might be bad enough, as many people claim that we're violating the laws of active combat as well as international laws, striking targets outside our sovereign territory. So the other thing when I talk about the shell games is that these things they do, they seem to always come on the heels of other news stories, topics, controversies that are happening at the time. So is this just another diversionary tactic to stop talking about the Epstein files or the economy, Social Security, affordability, healthcare, SNAP benefits, etc.? So the Trump and the Trump administration always seem to have something going on that diverts or attempts to divert us, from the other huge issues at hand. Now, I promise that we try to bring a little levity to these topics, which I know can be really tough and hard to get through. So I thought about Donald Trump as the Music Man, a very very popular musical comedy from a few decades ago that described kind of a snake oil salesman coming to the town of Mason City, Iowa. So hope you enjoy the clip here. So folks, yeah, we got trouble with a capital T. That's for Donald Trump. And that rhymes with D and P, Donald and Pete, and ends in V, Venezuela. So we got trouble right here in River City. I'm in River City of Minneapolis, St. Paul. Whether you're in Mason City, Iowa, or Memphis, or Pittsburgh, St. Louis, or New Orleans, you got trouble, and we got trouble right here in the whole country. In this next clip, we're going to illustrate what Pete Hegseth calls our Secretary of War Crimes, as I call him. He illustrates his viewpoint on our stupid rules of engagement when it comes to wartime and war activities.
May very well be pointing the finger at Admiral Bradley, but once again, as the Washington Post reports, it was Hegseth himself who ordered the strike on the survivors of the initial U.S. attack, saying, quote, "Kill them all." A day later, Hegseth went on Fox News, where he said this about that military operation.
I can tell you that was definitely not artificial intelligence. I watched it live. We knew exactly who was in that boat. We knew exactly what they were doing, and we knew exactly who they represented. And that was Tren de Aragua, a narco-terrorist organization designated by the United States, trying to poison our country with illicit drugs.
And then, just a few weeks after that, the Defense Secretary gathered together America's top generals and commanders, where he told them to ignore the rules of engagement.
We're training warriors, not defenders. We fight wars to win, not to defend. We also don't fight with stupid rules of engagement. We untie the hands of our warfighters to intimidate, demoralize, hunt, and kill the enemies of our country. No more politically correct and overbearing rules of engagement. Just common sense, maximum lethality, and authority for warfighters.
Stupid rules of engagement, Willie. Political.
So there are 4 distinct laws of armed conflict, or you'll see LOAC or LOAC, and they are distinction. That is distinguishing between real targets, real combatants, and civilians. For instance, in the Middle East, Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, just being totally fine blowing up high-rise buildings that might be hiding some terrorists, but in the meantime, killing hundreds of innocent civilians. The other principles, as you can see there, military necessity, proportionality, and humanity. And the necessity is, do we need to blow up a small fishing boat with a fisherman driving it for a few $100 that is possibly not destined for the United States, when our usual procedure is to try to kind of cut the head off of the snake, go after the big leaders and so on, or at least capture those low-level people and try to get information out of them. So, is that really necessary? And then, in the humanity thing is, you may think, well, they have it coming to them. Well, war is very ugly, obviously, but do we want people torturing our soldiers, torturing and killing our soldiers if they become prisoners of war? And that's kind of what this is all about, establishing these standards that kind of, most of the countries try to adhere to in times of conflict and war. So we would want the same thing for our honorable people if they're captured by an enemy. Now here, if it's really about the war on drugs, right, then why would Trump pardon somebody in the past week? You may have seen about it. It was quite all over the news. This gentleman was the former president of the Honduras, and he was recently convicted and just started a 45-year prison sentence. And he was 2 weeks into the prison sentence when Donald Trump pardoned him. So he was accused and convicted of taking $600 million in bribes and actively helping to get over 400 tons of cocaine into the U.S. And yet Donald Trump pardoned him because he thought that the Biden administration just went after this guy for no good reason. And he hates anything that they did. So is it really about, drugs, or is it always about some other reality, payback, vengeance, retaliation with Trump? So now he's vowed to start a land invasion of Venezuela, and whether that's a threat, I don't know, but it certainly is something I take seriously. I hope you do too, and that's what I said. We don't want our kids, our grandkids, going into a military conflict to get oil or natural resources. There's a lot of talk about the Trump administration wanting a regime change there, which us in the CIA have done a lot of in Central America and South America and around the world with Saddam Hussein and other Middle East leaders. So again, the shell game, yes, I think there's always multi-purposes rather than just one or the other. I think they want the oil for the U.S., they want a regime change, and he wants to divert our attention from other important things like the Epstein files and Social Security and the Affordable Care Act and inflation. So let's resist and really be diligent and forceful about saying this is not going to happen. I don't blame you if you think that, I'm saying this to get people cranked up, to get viewership, etc., that it's hyperbole or drama. But we have been doing this for decades and decades. I put together, here's a little blood for oil campaigns by the U.S. since kind of my lifetime, since the 70s. And you may not remember some of those earlier ones. But certainly you've heard of the Gulf War in 91 and the Iraq and Iran War in the early 2000s, the occupation of Iraq kind of based on, the threat of WMDs, which proved to be either a lie or totally inaccurate intelligence. And of course, in the last 5 to 10 years, we've talked about the threat of ISIS in the Middle East, and we continue to have a presence there, and continue to make these alliances, allegiances, backdoor deals with people like the new regime in Syria, and we, Trump accepted a $450 million gift from the country of Qatar in the form of a jumbo jet, a new Air Force One airplane. So take a look at these, and I think you'll agree that we have a pretty good precedent in history for doing these kind of things. Here's another little item to add to that list. Last week, Trump proposed rolling back what they are called the CAFE fuel standards for automobile makers, having to do with the fuel efficiency and meeting fuel efficiency standards. And he wants to roll that back ostensibly to, help the automakers because they are crying about meeting those requirements. And yeah, he is very pro-business, but really at the expense of everything else. He comes in with a wrecking ball, kind of to every problem, including figuratively and in reality. When you look at the destruction of the White House East Wing, that was a literal wrecking ball.
The previous administration cut
change.
You've heard me say many times. our fight to defeat.
There's your flim flam man. There's your shell game operator, Donald Trump. And really, we're going to keep fighting towards our goal of winning our democracy back in the 2026 midterm elections, which I told you is 329 days from now. And that's going to be upon us very quickly, and especially starting with some of the primaries and candidates registering for those seats. So we're going to give you information as that happens. And in the meantime, please stay strong, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.